My name is Elizabeth Westbrook, and I'm 26 years old, and it's May 8th, 2004. The purpose of this videotape is to state for the record what went on during the arrest of Malachi York and Kathy Johnson York. I would like to state that I was an eyewitness to the arrest. Myself, Diane Vincent, Malachi York, and Kathy Johnson.
It is May 8th, 2004. My name's Diane Vincent. My age is 39. I guess I can start off by saying the reason why I'm doing this tape to get on record that everything that happened during May 8th, 2002, how the arrest began, because a lot of people are not aware of the things that Macul Chief Black Thunderbird Eagle, Dr. Malachi Z. York went through, a lot of things that Kathy Johnson went through, a lot of things that we all went through that day. I heard Sills make a comment that it's not about Malachi York and the Nuwaubian people, if you want to call them that. And I just think that's just a very degrading thing to say, because it shows what type of person he really is. It shows his racism and his biasness. And people are hearing the propaganda that's in the media, and they're not hearing what people went through that day. They don't care about what people went through on that day. They don't care about individuals take away from the name Nuwaubian. They don't care about what innocent individuals went through and what they underwent under the hands of the government. And it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary, and it was based on lies. So I had to get that.
But before I go on into what happened during the arrest, I would like to state what happened prior to the arrest. 2 years ago, exactly today, May 8, 2004, we were coming from Athens to the land at 44 Shadydale Road in Edenton, Georgia. During the month of May, we usually prepare for our week-long festivities we have in June. And that particular day, we had a meeting with a laser company because the other church members in Malachi York thought we would do something different this year. And we were going to have a laser show, a light show, and show holographic images. So the laser company was going to do a test run, you know, to see exactly how much space was needed or exactly where they would shoot it, the best lighting in the best position. We arrived there early, and to let time pass by, you know, to buy some time, we went to Milledgeville. When we arrived at our destination in Milledgeville, Georgia, we did our shopping. It was in the, we were in the parking lot of the Kmart.
So we decided to go. Macul decided he wanted to, you know, go to Milledgeville and do some shopping, and so he invited me along to do the shopping. So as we went shopping, right, we go into the store. I remember going to the store. I remember a man standing there as soon as we walked into the hat store in Milledgeville. I remember a man standing there, and I remember Mr. York on Macul. I remember him saying something. I'm not sure exactly what he said. And, oh, you're already here. That's what he said. And a man looked at him weird. Later on, I found out it was one of the FBI agents. And we did our shopping, and I happened to go to Kmart to look for something.
After we were finished, which is myself, Malachi York, Kathy Johnson York, and Diane Vincent, we were walking towards the vehicle. And we got in the vehicle. Everything was normal at that point. We got in the vehicle. Before we could put our seatbelts on, in the shadow of an eye, in a split second, we heard a loud boom, and simultaneously we heard shouting saying, "Get out the car right now." And I'm sorry, I would like to state for the record, I don't use obscene language. This is the language that was being told to us, and this is how was we were told to get out of
And as we came out of the store, we got into the car, we started conversating. Next thing you know, back of the windows shattered. That's what I saw was afterwards. When we first heard the bang, we thought somebody shot through the window. We thought it was being carjacked. I thought it was I don't know what it was. My mind just went into TV mode because that's the only thing I could relate to it. I thought somebody shot the back of my head out, and I couldn't, and I didn't know about it until I thought maybe I was in shock. That's why I didn't know about it. I didn't know what it was. I just know I heard bang. Psh. Then moments after that, because things happen so fast, you saw the glass, so you knew the window shattered out. You still didn't know what it was. You heard somebody scream, "Get out of the car!" So we thought we was being carjacked. We was like, "What the hell's going on? What is this? What's going on?" Right? Next thing you know, the window on my side gets shattered in. I just so happened to move down and move to try to comfort Makul because I saw that he was keeling over and I thought he was hurt. I was like, well, maybe he got shot. So I went to grab him to see if he was okay. And as I did that, the window bashed in same time. Had I not, it would have, whatever it was, whether they shot the window or whatever it was, would have smashed me all in my face, would have just bashed my face open. Luckily, it just splattered in my head and in my ears and got some in my clothes and stuff, like abrasions on my clothes and so forth. I mean, on my neck and so forth. Next thing you know, we were being pulled out of the car. Everybody was yanked out of the car. Everybody was yanked out of the car and was dragged on the ground, was thrown on the ground. I had two guns pointed toward me. One was towards my head and one was towards my back. I couldn't put my feet all the way down because I had heels on. But they kept mashing my feet down, saying, "Put your feet down, put your feet down." I said, "I can't, I have heels on." Right? I said, "What is this? What is going on? Why are we doing this?" No one gave us the answer. "Why are you doing this? Why you have guns pointed at my head?" So I lifted my head up, right, because it had me positioned in an awkward way, and the glass was just right at my face. So I lifted my head up, and the guy pushed my head down with the rifle again, said, "Get your head down." And when I lift up, I didn't know I had a gun in my back until I lift up and I felt the gun on my back and my head. That's when I realized I had a gun on my back and my head, and they handcuffed us. And immediately I thought about Makul because I knew he was ill. So I tried to lift my head up again to see if he was okay because he was behind me. And the man pushed my head back down to the ground. And I said to myself, well, he's just going to have to shoot me because I have to see if he's okay. So I lift my head up again, turn around to see if he was okay. By that time, they had pulled Makul up from the ground, and they had him up against a car, and they had two guns pointed at him. And it was, I don't even think they frisked him at the time. They just had the guns pointed at him. So the next thing I did was I looked to the side to see if I could see Elizabeth or Kathy. I didn't see Elizabeth because she was on the opposite side of me, but what I saw was half of Kathy. I saw her from her waist down, and I saw two men with assault rifles pointed at her. One was in the angle that was pointed. It was looking like it was pointed at her back and her head, like mine. And so we stayed like that for a few minutes, and all I kept saying is, "Why you're doing this? What is this about? Why you're doing this? What is this about?" Because I'm thinking, Dad, did we run somebody over? Did we hit somebody and not know it? Did we get into a car accident? What's going on?
somebody comes up to me suddenly or knocks on the side of my window suddenly. Even today, I get a little shell shocked because that's how it came across. While they were shouting at us, glass shattered from the back of the vehicle and the side of the vehicle, and at this point I thought we were being shot at. And I looked towards Doc and I said, get down, get down. I think we're getting carjacked because the people with the guns, they didn't have any marked clothes on, just black clothing. And I couldn't understand what was going on, so I got down and I did like this, you know, so Pop could get down too. And he was like, no, I want to see what's going on. I was like, no, if you're getting shot at, just stay down. Meanwhile, they no longer waited for us to get out the vehicle. They opened the doors for us and began yanking us out of the vehicle. I fell on the ground. At this point, I lost eye contact with Malachi York. I was on the concrete, and it must have been 98 degrees outside that day. I was on the concrete, and I fell a certain way. So the guy began to cock his gun and poke it in my back, telling me to spread my legs and spread my arms. So I could see Kathy Johnson York in front of me, because she too had two guns on her. One pointed to her head and one pointed to her back. And they was just telling her to do the same thing. So while I had my hands and legs in a spread eagle type of manner, the guy began to handcuff me. And I could still hear what was going on the other side of the vehicle. And I heard shouting in the other sister. And I could see Kathy in my peripheral, because she was right in front of me. He handcuffed me, picked me back up. Well, it wasn't like it was a jerk, jerked me up, and then I regained visual contact with Malachi York. At this point, he was up against the adjacent car, and his glasses were slightly hanging off of his face, and he was sweating profusely, and that it was two guys on him, and this is at this point as well, a FBI vehicle, SWAT car truck pulled up, and this is when they began to reveal who they were, because before nobody had anything marked, so I didn't know what was going on. It was two guys on Malachi York with guns pointed to him, and he was leaning up against the adjacent car. And I would not take my eyes off of him. And they were yelling, asking him different questions, and I couldn't really hear exactly what they were asking. But you could just see he was just shaking his head down like this, and trying to get his glasses pulled on his face as he was being yanked.
They pulled me up, and they pulled me away from Dr. York, right? And they moved me to the squad car, past the car to where we are, past the Navigator. Moved us past there, and they moved Kathy and Elizabeth on the other side. Okay, so I was like, where are you taking everybody? Why are you taking me? Why are you separating us? What is this about? No one said anything. No one let us know who was being arrested. We didn't even know who was being arrested or anything. So that all that unanswered went on. So I started to say, after I was able to see Maku where I was standing, right? So I was trying to see if everybody else was all right. So I said, where's my sisters at? I said, where's Kathy, where's Elizabeth? And one of the officers said, well, you'll see them sooner or later, right? I said, I want to see them now. Where are they? Where are they? So he pulled Elizabeth over to me, right? And somehow they maneuvered us, and we walked over on the other side of the parking lot, away from Maku, and they moved Kathy to the side that we were on, but still it was away from Maku. It was like where I was, and we were able to see Maku where we were, and so we kept asking, what was this about? What was this about? And it had this little man that was from Atlanta. I guess he was an agent. He was from Atlanta, and he was irking me because he was being facetious, and it was as though it was a whole bunch of non-concern, and it hurt me more so because we knew we were there for wrong reasons, and we knew that these people the way they was treating us and the way they was behaving, the way he was behaving, the comments that he was saying, you know, like y'all people from New York and stuff like that, even though half of us wasn't from New York, And, you know, little things he was saying made me think that he was fed a lot of information that was wrong. Like one thing, he thought everybody was from New York, and I said, that's mislead you. You think that everybody's from New York, and they're not. That's what you're told. That's the propaganda you're fed in the newspaper, because people have been feeding the media propaganda about Nawapians way before May 8th. Okay, it's been a prejudice about Nawapians way before May 8th. So you can see he was poisoned by that propaganda. We asked him what was his name, and he gave some phony name that he couldn't even spell. So we was like, spell it, and he couldn't even spell it, so we knew it was phony, so he was like a waste of time. We asked him, we kept saying, we want to go where they are, we want to go with them. Why are we not there with them? Why are we not going with them? And his answer was, he's God, he has God on his side, God is going to go with him. And I was like, you know, that is such a blasphemy statement to say, as such a, what is it? It's such a debasing statement, such a disrespectful statement to say, even for somebody that's a Christian. Okay, for somebody that's a Christian, why would you say a thing like that? Why would you say something like that? If he's a Christian man, if I'm a Christian woman, why would you belittle my religion in that way? And that's the first thing that came out. You just throw that out like that. You just say that so easily, just to be spiteful. And you have no reason to be spiteful, because you know nothing about Maku or the Nawapians. You know nothing about us. So that type of thing was going in my head, and it was sort of angering me. And I saw how people just don't care. And so we just kept asking questions. We kept asking questions that we weren't asked. They asked us our name. We gave them let me state this for the record. We gave them our name when we were in the parking lot, handcuffed. We gave them our name, our addresses, and our social security numbers. So whatever officer lied after we were detained a whole hour later, and they came down here a whole hour later and raided Tamaray, whatever officer lied and told the people that we were being detained because we weren't cooperating was lying. We gave them every information that we had, and they searched our bags to get the information that they needed. Okay, so that was a total lie. So obviously the quote-unquote detainee thing was bogus. Okay, so after that we were handcuffed. They wouldn't give us any information. This woman came by and said, she said, we asked her a question. She said he was going to appear before the magistrate judge. She didn't tell us why. And we were like, why is he appearing before the magistrate judge? We had no inkling of what the problem was, or why anybody was being arrested. Until that time, until she pointed out the fact that it was Maku being arrested, I thought that we had did something wrong. I thought we did something wrong with the driving. And she said Maku was appearing before a magistrate judge. They didn't say anything about Kathy. So we said, why I wanna go with him. She said, no, you're not going with him. She said, I'm going with him. He'll be saved. You can trust me. I'm going with him. I said, trust you? I said, you just yanked me out of my car, bashed the windows in, yanked me out of my car, and threw me down on the floor, and had guns loaded and pointed to my head for nothing, and I'm supposed to trust you? And she kept saying, well, he's going with me. And so we asked her, what's her name? She said something like Lottie or Ronnie.
They took Kathy Johnson, York, to a separate vehicle away from us. And they took myself and Diane Vincent to another area, and they pulled Malachi York in front of the vehicle on the side where I was originally standing. So we still had visual contact with him. They stripped him of his jewelry, his cross that he wears. They stripped him of his cross that he wears. They took his items out of his pocket. They began searching the vehicle to look for weapons after they already had pointed guns at us as if we had anything. They found no weapons in the vehicle. Glass was everywhere. The sister Diane Vincent that was with me, we were standing there still in handcuffs. The handcuffs were very tight around our wrist. And you could see that the way they handcuffed Pops, they had him handcuffed in a very uncomfortable manner because one of his shoulders was down and he wasn't balanced, and he was up against the car, meanwhile still trying to keep eye contact with us to make sure we were all right while they were doing these horrible things to him.
We kept looking at Makul to see if he was all right because we knew he was ill. They searched him. They took his religious medallions off. They searched his pockets, and they appeared to be questioning him. We were too far away to hear what they were saying, but we saw him nodding and so forth like that. And at one point, Makul was standing up, and he sort of leaned back, like in fatigue. He leaned back up against the car, and the officer allowed him to sit down then. Because he saw that he was about to collapse. So he let him sit down, and he leaned sideways against the thing, still handcuffs still on. He leaned sideways, and he was complaining about the handcuffs being too tight. And it was a real hot day. We asked who the man was that was questioning Makul. They told us Alan.
They asked us our names. They never told us. We asked why were we being arrested. The guy said, "You're not being arrested. You're just being detained." I told him that's like saying you're not being fired. You're being downsized and wearing handcuffs, and you're just taking advantage. And I don't understand what's going on. They wouldn't tell us anything. They never read Malachi York his rights. His rights were not even read to this day. He was never read his rights. I asked, could I please be with him? They said, no, if you take another step, then it'll be trouble. So Diane Vincent, told me just, calm down. At this point, they brought Kathy Johnson York back around, and they put her in a Baldwin County vehicle, and they put myself and Diane Vincent in another Baldwin County vehicle, and they put Malachi York. They put him in an unmarked, regular, just brownish, champagne-colored car. And they took us to different places. They took me and the sister Diane Vincent, they took us to Baldwin County Sheriff's Department. Malachi York had left before we did. We stayed in the parking lot in the back of the vehicle, the sheriff's car, for at least 20 minutes, and the sister Kathy Johnson York left in another Baldwin County sheriff's car, and she left maybe 10 minutes before we did. So they separate us in intervals. When we went to the Baldwin County Sheriff's detention center, they had the handcuffs on us, and the sister Diane Vincent had a big piece of glass stuck in her shoe still, and we were still in handcuffs. So she was complaining about that and how much it hurted. We were there for a half an hour before they took the handcuffs off, and she was able to pull the large piece of glass out of her shoe. And we were fingerprinted 3 times, and our picture was taken 3 times. And we asked what was going on, and they still did not tell us what was going on. The sheriff of Baldwin County came in at that point and said, made a phone call in front of us and said, okay, do you have him, or how long should I keep these 2? And apparently the guy said another 45 minutes because we were there for another 45 minutes. And he told us, well, you have to stay here for at least 45 minutes to an hour before we can let you go. At the time that it passed, when we were able to, towards the end of the 45 minutes or whatnot, the sheriff came back to us and said, you're free to go, but Kathy Johnson and Malachi York is being under arrest. We said, what for? He said he didn't have any details. So meanwhile, they towed the vehicle we were in to the Baldwin County Sheriff's Department where we were at. And as we were walking out, the vehicle, I was in a state of shock while everything was happening, but as we were walking out, the vehicle had no back window anymore, and on the passenger side where Pops was sitting, behind him, the glass was shattered there as well. So the glass was broken all throughout the vehicle. Everything on the inside was broken. And I said, do you expect me to ride in this vehicle? And the sheriff of Baldwin County said, I don't know how that happened. I was just doing my job. I was just assisting the FBI. And I said, how it happened was the FBI busted our glasses, busted the glass open and busted while we were in the vehicle. And he said, I don't have anything to do with that. Here are the keys, ma'am. You're free to go. Meanwhile, I'm shaking profusely. I'm shaking, and I don't know what to do. So I was like, okay, all we could do is go back to the land at 404 Shadydale Road and let them know what happened, you know, because we were scared. We didn't have Doc with us or nothing like that. So on our way back to the land, we were being followed, and before we could get to the land, it was a roadblock at the fork of the road, and they said no one can come past this point. So now I'm really going out of my mind because I don't know what's going on and what's happening. And then I saw some members at Ingalls. We had to turn around and drive back, and they let me know that while, you know, we were going through what we were going through, the land was being raided at 404. And I was like, raided? It was like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of FBI agents and cops up there. And I'm like, my daughter is there. Nesha was like, her kids are there, you know. So we didn't know what was going on, what was happening. And we weren't able, they didn't clear the roadblock until very late, very late. So we were kept, you know, in the dark for a long while. That's what transpired May 8th during the arrest at that point. However, even today, 2 years later, I know my daughter, her name is Nawar Bennett, and she still has nightmares. My sister was watching her at the time of May 8th, and I know that sometimes in the middle of the night, she'll wake up screaming and shouting, and I'm like, what's wrong? She said, it may not be real to you, but it's real to me. And I'm like, what's that mean? She said, they're coming. And I'm like, what's that mean? And she was 3 years old. She's 5 now. She was 3 years old at the time that this all happened, and she remembers it like it was yesterday. She looks at law enforcement different. She thinks they're enemies. Anybody she sees in a uniform and a gun, she feels that, you know, that they're coming after her. Every time a helicopter flies over our land, she runs in the house scared. Her and the other children even had a game that they had called Helicopters. So they pretend they was helicopters and they run in the house and run for cover. Now, my daughter is 5 years old, keep in mind, 5 years old, and she runs it and replays it in her mind as if, you know, it happened yesterday, when she has dreams that reoccurs on a daily basis, and this is what, you know, we as parents have to deal with. We have to deal with the raid on May 8th, the arrest. Now I wasn't with her at that time. She doesn't, you know, if you even mention the word FBI, she thinks that she's going, you know, that she's going to die. And that's exactly, you know, what she's dealing with. This is what's happening now. Today is, what, 2 years ago exactly today. And in my heart, I feel like I died that day in May. When I wake up, I feel I'm waking up into a nightmare. When I go to sleep, you know, Pops is free in my dreams. So I feel that's the real reality to me. And right now is the nightmare. until this whole thing is over. Malachi Z. York is innocent. New evidence has transpired. They're trying to block all of this. He is innocent of all these charges. He should never be in jail. He should have never had to go through this. Nobody should ever have to go through this. And nobody's looking at the fact of what's happening to us or what this 2 years have done to us. This is not a 2-hour movie that could be over and you know, in a matter of this is happening to us on a daily basis. This is real, and he continues to suffer, you know, to this day, off a bunch of lies and a plot that was set up by his son Jacob York, and you know, can't wait till he's free and the day that he's exonerated of all this mess. Him and Miss Kathy Johnson York.
Then we told them that we had our bags in a car. They switched our handcuffs, okay, because the first people that had our handcuffs on, that put handcuffs on us, they came to get their handcuffs. So the man from Atlanta switched his handcuffs with them, and he put his handcuffs on us. We told them that we needed to get our bags. We asked them what we were waiting on, and they told us that Baldwin County was going to, they was waiting on Baldwin County Sheriff's Department. A lieutenant came in, and right now I can't recall the lieutenant's name, but the lieutenant came in, right, excuse me, and we switched handcuffs again. And this time we told them again we wanted to get our belongings, so they walked us one by one to the car, right, and I kept my eyes on Maku because I knew that he was ill. I mean, you could see it. He tried to act like he was strong, but you could see he was ill. We walked and got the car. We saw them take his belongings out of his pockets and so forth and put them in a bag. Well, it was already out of his pockets. It was on the seat, and they was taking them from the seat and putting them in plastic bags, putting in these plastic bags. Then they walked us back, and they started getting ready to put us in a squad car. And we said, we don't want to leave yet. We want to leave with him. They said, well, you can't go with him. He's not going the same place. We said, well, we don't want to leave until he leaves. And the lieutenant told us we had to get in a squad car. So at first I wasn't budging. And a whole bunch of things were running through my head. I'm like, why is this happening? You're not going to get me in this car. You're not going to take him and do something to him because we already know how you feel about him. Well, I hesitated, and he told me, you don't want to do this. And what went in my head was what the other man that handcuffed us the second time said, was that if we showed any kind of resistance, they would beat us down and shoot us. So I got into the vehicle, and plus I didn't see it as any benefit to be resistant and give them a reason to harm Maku. So I just I went into the vehicle, and the puppy hair infested vehicle, and I just kept my eyes on Maku. Then they brought Elizabeth in, and they drove us. They played like musical cars with us. They kept changing us like 3 times, the 3 different squad cars. They put Maku in a champagne color, beige or champagne color squad car. They switched Kathy into about 2 different SWAT cars. We assumed Kathy was coming to Baldwin County with us because they told us we were going to Baldwin County. Why, if we were being detained, I don't understand why we had to go to Baldwin County. If we were being detained, and if we were being detained, then we should have been detained in that parking lot until they decided they wanted to drive Naku off. But for some reason, they felt that they had to take us as detainees to Baldwin County, have us sit there for half an hour or more with handcuffs on while they booked other people. These people they booked, people were there that they booked. They fingerprinted them, took their ID, and took pictures of them. Those are the people they booked. Now, me and Elizabeth and I, as detainees, they fingerprinted us, took pictures of us, but we were detainees. We weren't, quote unquote, booked, as they say. We sat there, like I said, we sat there for a half an hour trying to figure out where's everybody, where's Kathy. We didn't see Kathy. They already said they was taking Maku to Macon. We finally got that answer when we was in a last squad car, and a woman came to search our bags, and we said, please, can you tell us where he's going? And that's when she said he is going to Macon and he's going to appear before a magistrate judge. We said, for what? And she said that is on a need-to-know basis. I said, well, we need to know. So, but they didn't tell us. We didn't know anything. So Elizabeth asked for the keys to her car, and they gave her the keys to the Navigator. We got there. I guess they must have drove the Navigator on a tow car after us. Anyway, we sat there for about a half an hour or more, and then the Baldwin sheriff came in and told us that we were going to be, they were going to ask us some questions, and then they was going to let us go. We asked them about Kathy, and we were assuming, like, well, Kathy must be in another room somewhere. They told us that Kathy was being arrested on charges, and they didn't say what the charges was. They said she was going to appear before the magistrate judge also. And we were like, for what? And he wouldn't tell us. We got fingerprinted. They shuffled around a bit because they was trying to figure out a way to fingerprint us and take our pictures for their records for whatever reason as detainees, instead of and not have it appeared as a booking. But basically they booked us. Okay. Then after all that, we stayed for about, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half or more. Then they let us go, and they let us go in this torn up car that they tore to pieces. So we just knew we was going to get stopped. The only thing we could think of is we have to get back home and let these people know what happened to Maku. And we just felt like crap because we were leaving and two people that we loved were gone. It was just stolen away from us for whatever reason. We didn't know for what reason. We drove home. We got stopped by a barricade. We basically we got stopped by the barricade. We didn't know where to go. And finally, some fellow Nawabians helped us and drove us to Macon. And then that's when we found out that Maku was being falsely accused of child molestation. Ridiculous. I mean, I can't say nothing else about it other than it's bogus. People need to know that that is not in his character. It's never been. I've been around for, how old am I? I'm 39 years old, since I was 15 years old, so almost 24 years. I came in when I was 15 years old, okay? I've been around Maku since I was 15 years old. It's amazing how everybody's ignoring the fact that the mission started in 1967 when Maku was 22 years old. And from 1967 to 1988, there has been not one individual child out of the thousands and thousands of children that came in and out of the community. There has not been one child that made these false accusations. It's not until these children who ended up in Putnam County, where Sheriff Howard Richard Sills resides as sheriff, it's not until then that these false allegations came about, and it's based upon a period of time, predominantly from in Shadydale, in Shadydale Road, Putnam County. Not necessarily I had to bring it back to New York in order to make a case. But it's based upon children that are here. It's odd that in his prime none of this happened. But when a man is almost 50 years old and over 50, he all of a sudden acquires this whatever that people saying that he all of a sudden starts allegedly molesting children. It doesn't make sense. Nobody is putting these two together. I was 15 years old, and he never approached me in any other way other than respectful. He barely was around children when I was in a town when I was growing up. Okay, so it wasn't in his character, and it's bogus. That's basically it. I'm just want to clear that up and clear all the harassment and all that other stuff. What people need to know is if they're trying to tell you that they didn't come out here and point guns at kids, they didn't come out here and tell you, if they trying to tell you that they didn't abuse their force when they arrested Malkool, then they're now lying, because they did. It was totally unnecessary what they did. And people are not seeing what these children went through. They're not seeing what adults went through. Everybody's talking about these liars who are now coming, well, some of them said nothing ever happened, but they're being ignored anyway. But others who were forced to lie. Everybody's talking about the propaganda with them, but then nobody is talking about the innocent people that were unnecessary fingerprinted and photographed, violated. None of these things are becoming an issue, and that's an issue that needs to be brought forth to the public. That's it, because I could talk forever.